Hello all. This tutorial is 9 minutes long and I'm probably going to make some verbal gaffes during the process, so please put up with it. Flowers or shapes of nature have come up recently, so I thought I would do a short tutorial or a 9-minute tutorial. Beginning with a NURBS curve and the control point mode, it tends to naturally make a petal if you just use 4 points. I did that and just stretched it out, and then I use create surface from curves and then extracted a surface from that. You get a different piece of geometry doing this. Then over here in this panel I added 6 control points, or 6 sets of control points. And now using this new tool here, I can bend them up and then bend these down. This gives me sort of my initial shape of a petal. Now I'm going to move this to a side view and select points and use the reposition tool to move this to the center and rotate these up, say 15 degrees. And repeat this process on the other side, which now gives me a petal. Okay, now I'm going to rotate this arbitrarily. Go to a top view and duplicate in a circle. If I shell all these objects, we're going to get a thickness. And if I select every second one and change which direction the thickness is, I sort of get this shape of overlapping petals. Now I want to make this inside part. So to begin with, I will use the control point method again and create my initial shape. And then I'm going to duplicate this a number of times arbitrarily and move them up or down to wherever I feel I need them. And the reshape tool, and just randomly move these points up or down, whatever I feel like. We're looking for randomness here, not precision. Now, I duplicated one, scaled it a little bit, and moved it down. So that when I loft these, remember to check your settings. Everything should start at 0. I get this plume of a flower. Now I want to create the pointier sort of petals. So I'm going to go back to my original shape and scale it out. The reshape tool again, but this time I'm going to change all the vertex points so that they're pointy. Causes a little problem right here, which we'll talk about later. I'm going to hold the Shift key down and select all these points and move them up. You notice the whole thing moves a little differently than you'd expect except for that one point we talked about earlier. For now, we just select it and move it up into place. Because I've changed these curves, they will loft differently. So when we loft this, the initial 4 curves at the bottom will have a dialog box which allows them to 0 to 100. But the top one, because of the change in vertex, no longer responds that way. It responds incrementally. So that's why you see this occasionally. But the result is the same. So we talked about this point earlier, which is different than the rest of them. So the easiest way to fix something like this, as we're not taking this much farther, is simply to cut it in half, get rid of the offending geometry, and mirror the good one over, add solids, and now we have what we want. Just as a little segue here, we can extract things from this geometry. So here I'm going to extract all the curves from the top, copy them into a new file, ungroup them, and compose. I'm going to put up a sphere, 0.3 diameter, give it a color, create a symbol out of it, and duplicate it 100 times. That's just a little bit big. So to go to edit group, I'll change it to 0.15, and now we have what we want. Can bring it back. Now to finish it off with the rose petal. So this is a different process than normal, as again we are looking for randomness here. So I put a line down, and you want to start each curve snapping to it, but after that everything is just free form. But by snapping to the curve or snapping to the line, that assures that you will have the same 0 point for a loft. So as before, I've moved them into place. You've seen this, and I've taken that one and dropped it down and moved the points around. Now I'm going to loft, and I get, now I'm going to show you something here. After I set everything to 0, I am going to put on create solid, but I still get a nice hollow shape. It is considered a solid in some fashion. I'm going to copy that out to another layer and come back and loft again. This time I'm only going to pick off the inside ones that I want. Set them all to 0. But if I leave create solid on, it actually creates a solid with a top. That's because it didn't bend back down. So I don't want that. So now I will just do this again. Set them all to 0. Take off that, take off create solids, and I get what I want. So to finish the rose, putting in the petals, I'll copy that in. I'm going to give this a different color. I'm going to go to top view and just scale it. I'm going to duplicate it and scale it again. And then duplicate it and scale it again. Now I'm just going to rotate each one of those to give them another randomness. And rotate this one differently. And the same for the bottom one. Maybe I'll just rotate it left. And this will give me sort of a random effect.